What's up, CW fans? Hey, I'm at my QTH in California, and I don't have an antenna set up here. And because of that, and the fact that it is WPX weekend CW, I've decided I'm going to play around a little bit with a remote ham radio because that's a great way to get access to some killer stations and have some real fun running stations. And that's kind of what's really fun about contesting and stuff like that is, you know, the adrenaline and the rush and all the cool things that you do when you're getting big pileups, right? So what I wanted to do was I was just about to start to check my setup and make sure everything is cool, and I figured, you know, I should probably record this just so that people can see what I do before I jump into a contest or start using something like remote ham radio. So what I wanted to show you is the fact that we have this is an application that you can load on your Windows machine, and it comes up and it looks just like this. And on the left hand side you can see that there are a number of stations that you can choose from, and I'm going to be doing the one from W1 land called Jonesport. It's in Jonesport, Maine. It's I think it's out on a peninsula right on the water, so it's kind of a really cool placement, especially if you're wanting to work into Europe and into the East. It's got a really awesome setup for that. So I'm going to be playing with that, and when you click on it, you can see that it's there's a cost to it per minute, so it's $1.25 a minute. I think I might jump on for an hour or two and have a little bit of fun in WPX, which I'm going to live stream that. But before I do that, I want to just check some things, check the setup, and you can see on the right hand side there are different stations that cost there are different costs associated with it. So if you look at something like I use W2 Morris quite a bit, I'll use that to connect and maybe check out some of my settings. But before I do that, I'd like to double check some of the master settings. It's at least what I call it. I'll come up to Tools, and then I'll go through just each one of these just to make sure that things in these settings look right. So when you go to the console settings, you will be presented with this. It'll show you what your layout is going to look like, which I'll show you in a minute. But you can have there's up to 3 columns. You can have different things in each one of these columns. This is kind of like how I like to do it. I've got a log entry over on the left. I'll have the VFOs and the transmit, the little spot where you do all your transmit stuff right there. And then in column 3 I have like the map, and then if there's an amplifier associated with the station, I have it in the 3rd column. I like the dark mode for the theme, so you can go light mode or dark mode. There's a VFO control, which I'll mention when I get into the radio, but you can change it between knobs, buttons, or a slider. I kind of like the buttons. Here's a question that I've been asked a couple of different times is, hey, if you kind of forget and you leave things running, you can really rack up a bill. And that is true, but not if you have the disconnect when idle timer set. So I've got mine set to 15 minutes, and that has saved me one time. It actually like beeps at you right before it's about to disconnect. So that I didn't know what that was. So that was cool that it did that. If you're operating sideband, push to talk is really cool and really easy. It's you can assign a key on your keyboard to assign to the PTT button. I believe you can also connect like a PTT switch to your USB and possibly use that also. But I like using the control key. That's the default key. So you just like hit the control P key and you start talking and keys up the radio. It'll show you DX spots if you want that. And then there's also some chat function that you can chat with other users in the RHR ecosystem. So you can auto join chat, and it'll play a chat sound, like if somebody chats to you, it'll do a chime. Now here's the macros. I want to make sure that I look at this specifically, because when we are doing a contest, we definitely want to set up macros because there's no way, I don't have a key hooked up to my computer to be able to do everything manually, so we're going to do things by macro. And I know that there's some a little bit of disdain for computer generated code, but the reality is in contesting, that is what we do. That's what we, contesters do. There's the fatigue would set in immediately, and you'd get a handful of hours in if you're hand sending everything. So we do it by computer code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some of this, the macros. So for example, F1 is the CQ. So I'll go CQ WPX, and then I'll put in my call sign and then my call sign again, right? So this is what generates this macro within a macro, if you want to call it that, is I can't remember what they call them, but you can see what all the things that you can do here. My call is my call sign. Thank you. So these are hard coded. You can't. This is my call. It just shows your call. F3 is thank you. 599, and then I've got a couple of rag chew functions in here. So when I'm just kind of rag chewing and playing around with remote ham radio, I've got that kind of like popped into there. But what I wanted to do is actually change this, because when you're calling CQ, you're like CQ WPX, this is Kilo 9 Kilo Juliet, Kilo 9 Kilo Juliet. And when somebody comes back to you, you're going to want to put in F2 what the exchange is for WPX. And if you do, let's see here, I'm going to, there we go. Let's go like this. CQ WW WPX. Let's go to the rules. And let's see what we have here. Rules FAQ page. What is the exchange? Actually, I could probably just go. That's not readily apparent. I thought I'd be able to throw this up here really quick. So CQ WPX Exchange. There we go. So if you look down here, the exchange is an RST report, so we're going to go 599, plus a progressive contact serial number starting with 001 for the first contact. So what we'll want to do is put in the person's call. So when somebody calls you, like say it's Kilo 9 whatever, you want to send their call, and then you want to do 5NN, and then the serial number, which I'm trying to figure out what the serial number is. So grid, ITU zone, CQ zone near the county, state, my call. Yeah, we need to get the serial number in here. I wonder if that might be actually when we're in the software. So we'll come back to that later. But F3, we'll want to do a thank you, and then a QRZ KJ is what I want to do. So these are the three functions we're going to do. I don't know, maybe it's a pound. It might be the pound for the number. Can't remember, but let's see if that works. We'll give that a shot. We have a CW run mode macros, which are pre-programmed CW message that you can do when you're in run mode. So when you are running, there's this thing called enter to send. So all you have to do is just keep hitting enter, and it knows what it should send. So here we've got when you hit enter and you're calling CQ, which I'll try to demonstrate this when I make some contacts. So we'll do CQ WPX. Actually, I think a lot of people just do CQ test. It's been a year since I did this contest. So CQ test, call sign, call sign. So what we're going to do is the report is their call sign, RST, which will be always 5NN, and then a progressive number, which I hope that's the number. Then we'll go TU can KJ, and that's kind of what we'll do there. So that's what that looks like. I'm not going to do any enter, shift enter to sends, so that's, you can kind of like switch things up a little bit. I'm just going to do enter to send. That works. And then I'm not going to do any phone. I don't even think I have a, well, I do have a microphone connected to this, but I'm not going to worry about that. And then I don't ever worry about any of this stuff. So these are the settings that I usually look at just to make sure things are cool. In RHR, you've got operating profiles, so you can go to CW, which is what I'm going to operate now, and you can make sure that some of these things are already preset when you log into a radio, for example. Like maybe you would like to have the volume set to 50 when you log into any radio. You can do that kind of thing. Just kind of like don't have it do anything. But like when I come down to here, like CW words per minute, you can have it set CW words per minute. I always have it just default right into 25. And then because I have a little bit of some hearing loss in the lower frequency range, I have the CW side tone frequency set to my favorite frequency, which is 700 hertz. So I always like to make sure that that's set, because sometimes the default is more around like 600, and that's a little bit harder for me to kind of like discern stations. So I like it a little bit higher in the frequency range. So that is that, full duplex, TX DAX app required. So yeah, that's all that I wanted to do in the CW profile. And then when I go to browser devices, I don't have any browser devices, but I really want to get my hands on one of these CTR2 MIDIs, because it gives you the ability to have a cool VFO knob, and then the ability to press some buttons for controlling the RHR experience. So I can't wait to check that out. So that's basically all I really do. Sometimes I go into audio just to make sure, yep, looks like the microphone's working, even though I'm not using the microphone. But yeah, those are the settings that I like to go into, and just before I start jumping into playing around with the radio. Now, because when you log into a radio, the second you log in, you're going to start spending money. So what I like to do is I'll go to, let's see, W2 Morris, for example. What you could do is I'll look at this radio. Looks like it's got the ability to go on. Let's see here. Not showed me all the bands, but you can go on all bands with this one. So if we click on this, I can go to Standby RX, and I can listen around a little bit. So let's do that real quick. So because there's a WPX contest going on, I'm going to, let's click here and then go to 20 meter CW, which there's got to be a ton of stations. And what we'll do is, let's see here, can we bring this up a little bit? There we go. So I'm going to use my mouse scroller to expand this out so we can see some of these stations and get the waterfall a little bit easier to look at. So everything kind of sounds right to me. I've got the volume at a nice level here. Oh, now it's right. So I don't know why that was all the way to the left. So these are some of the things that you've got to look at just to double check, just to make everything cool. This station doesn't have a rotator. You can see it's got quick information, what state it's in, the grid, how above sea level it is, the ARRL section, what county it's in, ITU zone, and CQ zone. So you got a lot of cool information here. And I'm not like really sweating it because I'm paying 5 cents a minute. I've already been on here for a little bit over a minute. This is an off-center fed dipole at 100 feet. And yeah, this is what the pattern looks like. So you're going to get some really good exposure to Europe and then into North America and out to the Pacific Ocean. So W2 Moore's good station. I've used it many times. It's actually pretty awesome. You can really see it's got some great receive. You're picking up a ton of DX here, which is awesome. Let's see here. So was it NS0R? Oh yeah, I guess that it is in the right spot. So it's kind of neat. You can just click around and let's say I want to work WD0T. Click on that and it brings them right in there. This is all generated off the packet cluster, so this stuff pulls in automatically, which is great, and kind of makes for a fun experience if you really want to have some fun jumping into a contest. So I'm going to be live streaming, and I figured I will show you some of the setup first, just to make sure. But yeah, we'll have a good time doing some WPX contest. I think I'm only going to really call CQ. Well, you know what? I'll probably do a couple of different things. I'll make sure my macros work, which maybe I should do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect because I can't transmit because up over here I just did the RX option, which gives me 5 cents a minute. What I'll do is I'll go to the one right below it, and let's make sure my macros work. The other thing I wanted to show you also is setting up the logbook. So you don't need anything else other than this in order to play in the WPX contest, including the logbook. So I can go over here, click on New Logbook, and it'll come in here. I'll log in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, let's see, 2025 WPX CW is my naming convention. Of course, I'm using my call sign. I'm in the United States, and I'm going to hit save. All right, cool. So now that I have a logbook, see, it brings me to the website so I can manage my logbooks, and you can kind of do a lot of stuff with the logbooks here, which that might be a topic for another video. But I can come down here now, and I can see I got WPX CW logbook. I'm going to go over to the right here, so I'm going to do CW only, and I'm going to go into WPX CW single op, right? And then it sets everything up for me to be able to just do what I need to do. So for example, here, let's turn up the volume just to make sure. Let's get a maybe generally clear frequency, like maybe here, right about here. Whoops, I guess that wasn't clear. So yeah, if I'm calling CQ, what I would do is all I have to do is hit enter, and it's going to send what's right in here. So if I get a station like AB1, AB for example, all I have to do is hit enter. And there you go. It does 5991. And then I have to put in that person's serial number. And all I have to do is hit enter, and then it'll log it, and then do a QRZ. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to hit escape and not log this contact. There we go. And I'm going to do some live streaming and jump into actually operating here. Looks like I see a bunch of familiar call signs out there, though. So I'm going to do 20 meters, probably 20 meters only, and see what I can do. And it's going to be fun. So anyways, if you are in an antenna-restricted area like myself, I don't have an antenna, or if you are mostly doing portable operations, maybe you just have QRP rigs, and you would like to really jump into having some different kind of fun, like running pileups, working a bunch of DX. But I always like to do this thing where I like to do DXCC in a weekend, see if I can do DXCC, run in a contest. There's all kinds of fun stuff out there in ham radio, and this is one of those things. So, anyways, hope everyone has fun in WPX this weekend. The speeds are high, I will warn you, but don't let that intimidate you, because there are some folks that are running a little bit slower, number one. And then number two, you know what the exchange is going to be. They're going to send their call sign 599 and then a number. If you don't copy the number, who cares, right? Just put in whatever number you want. It's a great way to get your numbers really down pat. So CW on, my friends. Hope to see you in the contest.